Hi, this is Sir David, the Bard. Get used to it. The Bard, a medieval storyteller. Now, I read the Shakespeare stuff, and it's more of a poet, and I don't know it. So, I'm not a poet, but I'm a medieval. I'm not all the way evil, and I'm not way not evil. I'm medieval, and I do tell stories. Some of them are true. I read this and I thought, it's too long and it's too complex, and my people aren't going to like this. I'm going to make it short, and I'm going to make it sweet. You know, the Mormon Church has told you and me and the world they don't have a paid clergy. Okay? I'm going to read you a little history. Okay? It's not a story. It's not a bard story. Now, I'm going to give you the, so you can look it up yourself, because you don't believe me. I know most of you don't. The following comes from D. Michael Quinn, Quinn, The Mormon Hierarchy, Extensions of Power, Chapter 6, Church Finances, Salt Lake City, Utah, Signature Books in association with Smith Research Associates, 1997, see pages 198 through 225 and footnotes for Chapter 6, pages 502 through 513. Also, the Richard N. Ulstein and Joan K. Ulstein, Mormon America, The Power and the Promise, Chapter 7, Mormon Incorporated, San Francisco, California, Harper, San Francisco, 1999, pages 119 through 127. So, you Mormons who watch me, don't look that up, because it's the truth, and you can't believe everything on the internet. Now, let me just give you, God, it's pretty out there today. Oh, I'm looking up from the basement apartment. It is really kind of pretty out there. I can barely see. Anyway, Mormonism's bad, kept secret of a paid clergy. LDS scriptural excuses for putting Joseph Smith and subsequent general authorities on the people's provided payroll. I didn't believe half of this until I looked it up, and I thought, damn, it's true. I feel more like an idiot that I was in there for 50 years before I resigned. Before the church had even a tithing requirement, it had a paid ministry. In November 1831, a revelation declared, "He who is appointed to administer spiritual things, the same is worthy of his hire." Now that's D&C, that's Doctrine and Covenants 70, verse 12. This was the original doctrine basis for giving financial support to Joseph Smith and later to a hierarchy of general authorities. So Joseph Smith had a revelation that Jesus told him to take the people's money, that he was worthy of his hire. God. I'm trying to stay sober here, stay sober. But wait, there's more. Mormon Church justification for payouts to the first president, the general authorities and other high-ranking officers. In May 1835, an official church council voted that the Quorum of 12 Apostles and First Council of 70s have to particularly depend upon the ministry for their support and that of their families, and they have a right by virtue of their offices to call upon the churches to assist them. In other words, give them cash. When Bishop Edwards Partridge gave the first definition of tithing in December 1837, part of the tithing was for remunerating the officers of the church for the time which they were necessarily employed in doing the business of the same church, I guess. In other words, let's give money to the general authorities. That was 1837. 6 months later, the Stake High Council voted to instruct the bishop to pay the first presidency, J. Smith and Signe Rignum. I wonder if J. Smith might be Joseph. You figure it out, I don't know. Whatever the sum they agree with, for however there was such an uproar over the decision that the first presidency dropped its request for a fixed amount of salary. The laying on of the wallet, not the hands, the wallet. I'm holding my wallet right now while I'm reading here. Mormon Church patriarchs get cash and donation from giving blessings. Okay, presiding patriarch was authorized a salary of $10 a week in 1835. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but in 1835, that might be $100 now. I don't know. Both the presiding bishopric and patriarch, local patriarchs, charged a fee. Now, that's for giving a patriarchal blessing. I want my money back on mine. It didn't come true. I'd rather go to the crystal ball lady in the haunted mansion in Disneyland in Anaheim, California. She knows more about my future than the patriarch did. Oh, God, it goes on and on here. You'll have to read it for yourself. Also eating off the tithing table. I like the phrases here. The 19th century American West local officers of the LDS Church obtained their support from the tithing they collected. As early as 1859, Brigham Young wondered, quote, whether a stake would not be better governed when none of its officers were paid for their services. During Young's presidency, ward bishops drew at will. Oh, they have good judgment. They wouldn't take more than they need. Drew at will from the primary non-cash tithing Mormons donated. He complained in October 1860 General Conference, quote, against a principle in many of the bishops to use up the tithing that they could, all the tithing that they could for their own families. Is Brigham saying that the bishops were crooked? He is. He isn't. Oh, God. Bellying up to the tithing trough. I love the phrases. I'm stealing this from Steve Benson, the great-grandson of Ezra Taft Benson, who is a Pulitzer Prize winner, and he works for the Arizona, I think it's Arizona Republic, as their cartoon editorial person. Nevertheless, ending salaries to stake presidents in 1896 was temporary. For a while, stake presidents and their counselors were allowed to draw from the tithing fund, no more than the limit which they had previously specified, and not to entertain the idea that a stipulated compensation attached like a salary to certain offices of the church. I'm sure they had good judgment too. All of these men only took what they needed, but they kept changing the rules because they were crooked as a dog's back leg. Oh, by 1897, the first president spoke about the subject of compensation to presiding men in a meeting. Okay, they decided there. In 1904, set salaries were back again. It goes back and forth. Wherever Jesus is, he just changes his mind. You're paid, you're not paid. It doesn't matter. 1904, $300 per year. At late as 1910, local officers continue to receive 10% of locally collected tithing for handling the tithes. In other words, they collected the tithes, and if they got $100, they get to keep 10. If they get $1,000, they get to keep 100. That was 1904. It's better now, but you know, this started with Joseph Smith. Started. Oh God, ranking it in for retirement, or raking it in for retirement. I can't read this morning. Church allowances given to stake presidents and bishops. In addition, since the 1880s, stake presidents and bishops of long tenure have received retirement allowances in monthly and annual payments. In 1901, even the Paramocius church president, Paramocius, that sounds like a parasite, I don't know. President Lorenzo Snow said that a financially struggling stake president ought to receive his remuneration after he is released as well as before. Retirement allowances for stake presidents and continued into the early 1900s. Okay, they complained about it back and forth, I guess, and sometime I see in 1877 they were all arguing who should get the money and who should get the most amount of money. And you poor Mormon people, you just pay 10% while they're arguing over how much they're going to take. Let's see. I'm going to skip some of this because it's long, but please read it for yourself. It's huge. Let me get down to ringing the dinner bell. I love Steve Benson. He's a funny dude. He really is funny. At the October 1877 General Conference, the hierarchy announced a policy of reasonable compensation for their services, to the quorum of 12 apostles, and to the first presidency when organized. In John Taylor's view, this was actually a way of stopping the previous abuses in the personal use of tithing funds. Some of my brethren, quote, some of my brethren, as I have learned since the death of President Brigham Young, did have feelings concerning his course. Apostle George Q. Cannon wrote, "It is felt that the funds of the church have been used with a freedom not warranted by the authority which he held." Of the general authority still living, Joseph F. Smith wrote in December 1877, "One man, for instance, who has drawn $16,000 per year from the tithing office for his support, has been cut down to $2,000. They cut his legs right off." Thus some of the leaks are plugged, and we hope to be able by and by to build the temple. Oh God, it goes on. Okay, here comes Steve's sentence again. Setting up a salaried system of siphoning. Members and even apostles complained that it was getting out of hand. In September 1887, this became fixed allotments, which one apostle opposed, 12 draw a salary. In 1888, the First Council of 70 began receiving financial allowances to allow one council member replied, "I would prefer to receive no salary." A permanent allowance to members of the First Council of 70 was not established for another decade. Okay, here they are complaining again, and oh God, 1877, they were fighting again who gets the most amount of money. Okay, let me come down to, now they're going to pay people according to their power and senior rankings. This was, oh God, what's the dates on these that I'm seeing here? By 1932, the higher you were in the church, the more you got. More riches for the rulers. There was also miscellaneous fees from which the general authorities collected for ecclesiastical services. Brigham Young charged men $10 for each divorce or cancellation of the sealing. You're supposed to be married for eternity, but Brigham knew better. He cashed in on this. $10 for a cancellation of the sealing, which continued until the end of the century. In addition, until 1899, the general authorities charged a fee for setting apart all departing missionaries. I've said it, and I've said it a million times. I've never seen big money without corruption. It can't be done. Humans will steal if you give them any chance. Big money with no accountability is always evil. And why do you think Mitt Romney won't show his taxes, and why the Mormon Church won't show their books? Oh, it gets worse here. Okay. Goes on. In 1950, they had a 30% increase. Now, most of us in the old days, if we got 1 to 3% raise, that was good. 30%? That's damn good. Jesus came down and said, "Hey, I'm making money hand over fist. 30% more to my authorities." Oh, now here's one. This is interesting. Marion G. Romney. For example, as a newly appointed assistant to the 12 in 1941, Marion G. Romney found that his church amounted to less than half he was earning in his law practice. So I guess they had to up him a little bit too. Oh God. Okay. Hiding the financial facts. Gordon B. Hinckley fudges on the extent of the general authority living allowances. Moreover, President Hinckley's description of the hierarchy's income as very modest. Now, let's see if this is modest to you. Okay, the Hinkster depends upon one's own concept of wealth. For example, when Joseph Fielding Smith died at age 95 in 1972, he had worked nearly all the adult life as LDS at the LDS headquarters. First as a paid employee in the Houston office, and then as a general authority with a church living allowance. This kills me. At his death, President Smith had $245,000 in bank deposits, $120,000 in cash, $120,574 in stocks and bonds, and $10,688 in uncashed checks, including Deseret book royalties. Even 25 years after his death, the few ranked and file Mormons have such modest amounts of cash and liquid assets to them in their old age. A modest stipend. When are the people going to wake up and know they're getting screwed? They're getting screwed. These guys are laughing all the way to the bank with your money. Oh, this is the worst. This is the worst. Wiping out personal debt with Mormon church money. The LDS ministry is still a volunteer lay ministry. Okay. However, on occasion, church presidents have personally benefited from church finances by simply canceling their indebtedness to the church. In other words, they can borrow money from your tithing, but they may not want to pay it back, so they don't. Ah! On October 23rd, 1834, a revelation. Revelation. Jesus is the fault for this, not the Mormons. The Jesus, the virgin birth man, ended the Kirtland United Order and distributed its real estate assets among. They dissolved, okay, but everyone had to give up something. But guess who got it? Oh, Joseph Smith, Oliver Cowdery, Sidney Rigdon, Frederick G. Williams, Martin Harris, and Newell K. Whitney and John Johnson. The revelation said from Jesus, "It is my will that you shall pay all of your debts." Now that's D&C 10478. There's a however, comma. Joseph Smith privately required Whitney to balance in full, without any value received, the $1,151 Whitney had loaned to the prophet, as well as $2,484 to the other men's debt to Whitney Bishop. Whitney had to personally absorb this loss because Joseph said it had to be done. Damn, he's got flaming swords, Joseph. Say, bring me your 15-year or 14-year-old girls. And now he's got a carte blanche card on your tithing. Okay, here we go. Presents to prominent floating church loans. By contrast, Wilford Woodruff, Lorenzo Snow, and Joseph S. Smith did not use their offices as church president to cancel their personal indebtedness, yet they allowed tithing funds to be served as a loan pool for prominent Mormons. In a sharply worded report in 1911, the church auditors noted, if certain members of the church are entitled to borrow money from private banks, is there not a right of all members for the same purpose, I guess, to borrow from the church? If this policy is admitted, would it not result in confusion, jealousy, loss of consequence? So the committee went on. They spin it and spin it. Okay, in other words, the general authorities are allowed to borrow money from the church general fund because their living allowance wasn't big enough. So they have this little tiny stipend, you know, of $50,000 a year, but it ain't enough. Now it's $150,000, and they take the $100 from your tithing money, you fool people. Oh. Bankruptcy, a general authority way to get around paying off all the personal debts. Many general authorities repaid their debts after long years of effort, while others died in debt. On the other hand, some chose to declare legal bankruptcy. In 1842, Joseph Smith, his counselor Sidney Rigdon, presiding patriarch Hiram Smith, and presiding bishop designated Vincent Knight, sought relief from their indebtedness by filing bankruptcy. 70s president J. Golden Kimball was the next current general authority who filed for bankruptcy. In 1899, he had $11,000 in debts and only $2,000 in assets. John Taylor, declared public bankruptcy, quietly persuaded the creditors of John Taylor to settle his $140,000 debt in 1902 for 10 cents on the dollar. On the 27th of December 1919, recently sustained Heber J. Grant obtained the approval of his counselors to accept $30,000 worth of stock in the Utah Implement Vehicle Company. He had those loans canceled by the church. You know, if these things... I better put my glasses on because I always lose my video. I push the wrong damn button. Okay, there we go. You Mormons and me, 50 years of silliness, I believe the money went to humanitarian funds. The Haitian people, the Philippines, everywhere there's poverty. It doesn't. You know, I'm sad. I'm sad. I feel like a fool. I feel like a fool that I never saw these things. They were never taught to me in seminary. They were never taught to me in the religious classes I had to take at BYU. They were never in the general history of the church by B.H. Roberts. They weren't in the Journal of Discourses. They weren't anywhere. Don't tell me they've been open. I'm not that stupid. I just believed. I go, well, they tell me that none of them take a salary, and they're all rich before they get in there. What the hell are they doing? Borrowing money out of my tithing, then not paying it back. The money can't be used for the poor. It went for the prophets, and the seers, and the revelators, and the missionary. Patriarchs, I think, got $5 a blessing. And the general authorities got $10 for every missionary that they sent out and ordained. What next, folks? This is a cult. This is a cult. And those of you who want to believe and you want to stay in there, you'll love the potluck dinners, you love the friends that you've made, and you love the social climate. My God, that's wonderful. Is it worth 10% of your income for the rest of your natural life and having your name attached to this corruption? I'm a Mormon, and I'm proud of it. And Romney, I'm proud of my church. When are the Mormons going to get atheist standards? I'm an atheist. I wouldn't do that. And you know what? I didn't do it. I spent $1 million. $1 million of government money. City, state, federal. It was to go for a residential treatment center. I built it, and suddenly the IRS and Social Security said, holy shit, we saw $1 million go through your account. New Caribou, Sir David, the Bard. You're under investigation. Okay. Took them a year. Took them a year, both of them. IRS wrote me a letter of apology, and so did the Social Security Administration of the United States of America. They said, we traced every penny that went through your account. None of it, not one dime went to you. 9 cents went to you, but not one dime. We're sorry we investigated you. When are the Mormons going to have those kinds of atheist standards? That money was for poor children. And you know what? The New Caribou put it for poor children. Brigham Young didn't. John Taylor didn't. Lorenzo Snow didn't. Joseph Smith never had a job until he invented the cult of the Mormon Church. And then he took the girls' money that he was the guardian of out of Canada. And then he married the 2 sisters after he stole their money. He got run out of Kirtland printing monopoly money, and the members of the church couldn't use it and wanted their own money back. And he got on his horse and hightailed it out of Kirtland. Read your history. I'm not an intelligent guy. I just look on the internet and I say, oh, I didn't know that book was it. And then I look at the pages. God, that's true. There are people who know. Doesn't agree with your teachings, then it can't be true. Right, Mormons? Send that money in. The Mormon Church needs it. The poor kids that I saw in the Philippines that were dying of hunger, and the one little baby that I had in the orphanage that died in my arms from hunger, she didn't need it either.